All right, welcome everyone. Again, my name is Molly from Cultivate Balance, and today we are going to be talking about Ayurveda for better energy and focus. But in addition to that, also more creativity and joy and productivity. We're going to be getting into sort of a range of different types of energy that you can access throughout your day, based sort of on the projects that you're doing throughout your day and what your need is at different times. So we'll be chatting all about that. Thank you so much for being here. The other interesting thing about the content that we're getting into today is that it's really relevant to those of us who are working from home, because it can be really tricky to make your own schedule out your time when you're used to having it sort of scheduled out for you. So I really want to offer you the tools to feel like you can schedule your own time and really optimize your time throughout the day using the wisdom of Ayurveda, using the wisdom of daily routine. But also the things we will learn today will be applicable for life in the workplace and also just getting projects done from home. Doesn't just have to be working from home. It's just sort of like next level refinements in how we experience our daily routine. So we'll be talking about that today. I think it's really, the thing that I like about daily routine, which is an Ayurvedic thing, is that when we have structure, it gives ourselves sort of the opportunity to act freely within that. So I'm going to be providing you with some tools for a little structure today. And we can start thinking about, as I mentioned, when is the best time of day for creative pursuits, for collaboration, for communication? When is the best time for focused work, for problem solving, for critical thinking? When is the best time to study and use long-term memory? We'll get into all of those things today. And I'm really not going to ask you to like change the tasks that you do throughout your day, but you might be a little inspired to put them in a different order after you learn about this Ayurvedic structure for sort of refining your daily routine. And throughout this presentation, I invite you to just reflect on Ayurvedic practices that you might already be implementing, or Ayurvedic practices that I go over today that you're excited to implement starting tomorrow or starting this week. I want you to think about what about these practices and about Ayurveda feels limiting or inaccessible, because I want to support you through that. So if you can identify the pieces that are a little bit confusing for you or limiting, bring that to me and we can talk about it, and it might even lead to more webinar content to better support you. And I also want you to think about, what are you excited to learn about? And tell me those things too. Feel free to type them in, or if you're live, or send them to me after the presentation. Okay, so let's just get into what we're going to be chatting about today. Ayurveda for better energy and focus, yes. But within that, I'm going to do a quick review. What is Ayurveda? What are the doshas? If you're totally new to a webinar with Cultivate Balance with me, Molly, then I want to give you a little background. If you've heard it before, it'll be a nice reminder. Then we're going to talk about how your energy throughout the day relates to the different doshas, vata, pitta, and kapha, and the different times of day. We'll also talk about sort of the strengths and challenges for each dosha type related to energy and sleep and stress and things like that. Then we'll get into lifestyle. So how to leverage your energy throughout the day to use a daily routine to optimize, basically. After that, I'll give you some tips for integrating your own refined routine. And then we'll talk a little bit about a diet to feel more energized, foods that you can eat to feel more energized, and also some herbs and remedies to support energy and focus and the mind and the mood, basically. Looks like someone just had a question. Daily scheduled pieces that are seasonally appropriate for spring. Yes, totally. We can talk a bit about what's seasonally appropriate. And if you're interested in learning about the seasons, we do have a webinar coming up specifically for spring, detoxifying the body during spring, and that's on May 5th. If you're tuning in live, that's on May 5th. We also have done webinars on autumn. So every season we'll have a webinar for that content. So keep an eye out for that, please. And let's get into it. So what is Ayurveda? For those of us who are maybe newer to this concept, to this form of holistic medicine. Ayurveda is basically a very, very ancient holistic modality for healing. It comes from India. It's about 5,000 or 6,000 years old. So many, many years of case studies of people trying out the theories and the philosophy of Ayurveda and refining and practicing. So what we have now, what we practice now in Ayurveda is something that's really been tested by time, that's been around for a really long time, and that has worked for many, many people to continue on in this way. Ayurveda is a full spectrum system of healing, which means it's holistic, it's full body. So we're talking about diet and lifestyle, but also herbs and oils and yoga, meditation, sort of the whole emotional, physical experience, and how it's all connected. That's all within the realm of Ayurveda. And the other interesting thing about Ayurveda is it's really about cultivating balance, about learning how to understand when something goes out of balance and what actions, what practices, activities, or foods you can bring into your own life to bring yourself back into balance. Ayurveda is also really about aligning with the rhythms of nature. So that includes seasonal practices, but also just aligning your energy throughout the day, which is really what we're going to talk about in this webinar. And we'll just talk a bit about the doshas also before we get into it. So Ayurveda basically uses the elements, earth, water, fire, air, and space, or ether, to help us sort of categorize mind-body types for different types of people. So there's Vata, which is the air and space constitution. People with a lot of Vata in their constitution tend to have a smaller, lighter frame. They're very inspired, very talkative, creative, communicative people. People who have a fiery constitution, that's a Pitta constitution. So there's Vata, then there's Pitta, which is made up of fire and a little bit of water. Those types of people tend to have a more athletic build. They're very focused, determined, very organized, generally passionate people. And then people who have the third dosha, which is Kapha, that's earth. It's made up of the earth and water elements. That's my dosha type. Tend to have like a stronger or like a solid, sturdier frame, even curvy, and they're very loyal and patient, forgiving, very caring, nurturing constitution. So we all have all three doshas within us, Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, but usually we have one that expresses a little bit more and that is more, makes up more of our like physical body and our personality type. So it's a quick overview of that. If that's totally new to you, I recommend that you go to our website, cultivatebalance.com, and take our dosha quiz, our mind-body quiz. It's called How Do I Explain Myself? And that'll give you more of an idea of how the doshas relate to you. So the other interesting thing about the doshas is not only do we use them to describe our own experience, but we can actually use the doshas to describe the experience happening around us. And that's something that we're really going to get into today because each dosha corresponds with a different time of the day. And that gives us information on how we can be using our energy throughout the day to align with the dosha, with the energy around us that is most present. Okay. So, yeah. when I talk about the doshas, different, aligning with different times of the day, what's really interesting about this is that it gives us an opportunity to engage in specific types of projects or activities based on those times of the day. Okay, so just start thinking about that, and we'll get into it a little more. And basically, the more we can align our energies with the energy around us, the more we can connect ourselves with the rhythms of nature, with the elements, the more we can get sort of into a flow in our own routine, and the less stress we're going to feel in our lives, less frustrated we're going to feel when we're trying to get things done, when we're trying to organize our day. The more productive, the more focused, the more creative we're going to feel. So that's why we talk about this. So as I mentioned, each dosha, vata, pitta, and kapha, corresponds with a different time of day. So let's go through that, and we'll come back to this many times, and I'm just going to lay it out for you once, okay? So from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. is a vata time of day. Then we go into the kapha time of day. From 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. is a kapha time of day. From 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. is a pitta time of day, and then it repeats. Okay, and again, we're going to go into what all of this means, but I just want to give you the overarching framework before I do that. Okay, so after the pitta time of day ends at 2, we start over again at the vata time of day. 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. is the vata time of day, the second vata time of day. And then 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. is another kapha time of day. And then 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. is another pitta time of day. We are going to learn all about what that means, okay? But first, let's talk a little bit about how the dosha types relate to energy and sleep and stress and sort of our individual experiences. So the energy of vata again is made up of air and space, is light and clear. So people with a lot of vata in their constitution are generally really quick to learn, and they're easily engaged, but they're also easily distracted and can be sort of quick to forget. Quick to learn, quick to forget. It's that light, clear energy. The strengths of a vata type person are clarity, creativity, community, joy, adaptability, inspiration. They're easily excited, they're alert, they're quick to act, they're imaginative, intuitive even. And then some challenges that vata type people experience based on their energy is that they can be easily distracted. They can have difficulty focusing, and again, they can forget easily. Vata type people need about 9 to 10 hours of sleep a night. They're very high sleep individuals. You probably know if you're one of them. And when vata type people are under stress, they generally experience anxiety and fear within themselves, okay? So that's a little breakdown of how vata type people experience their energy and their stress and their strengths and challenges. But also that these energies are going to be accessible to everyone during the vata time of day. Okay, so start to think about that. Even if you're not a vata type person, if you want to experience more vata qualities like clarity, creativity, communication, and joy, you'll have more energy to access them during the vata time of day. Okay, so we'll get into all of this a little bit more, but that's a little introduction. So then pitta type people. It's the energy of pitta, which is the fiery constitution, is quick and sharp like fire. So pitta type people with a lot of fire in their constitution, are easily activated. Generally, they don't want to stop. They like start working and they can just like really get into it and just go for such a long time. They're actually very likely to burn themselves out. Maybe you know people in your life like this. Maybe you can relate to this. The strengths of a pitta type constitution would be discernment, willpower, they're courageous, they're determined, they're very passionate, they're focused, they're organized, they have a high capacity for learning, a probing mind, they're disciplined, And then challenges of a pitta type constitution would be, as I mentioned earlier, they're prone to burnout. Though, I mean, think about it. That's a fiery constitution. They can burn out. It's all sort of connected. So that also means adrenal fatigue. They don't know when to stop. Pitta type people can also experience like a lot of headaches because they're so focused that they'll actually get a bit of a strain. A pitta type person generally needs 8 to 9 hours of sleep, so a little bit less than vata, but not much. And a pitta's response to stress is usually anger, irritability, or impatience, more fiery emotions. Now, kapha. The energy of kapha dosha, which is earth and water, that's my constitution, is slow and steady. There's a component of sort of high endurance with kapha. So kaphas are generally slow to get started on a project or a task, but once they get in, they can go for a long time. They're very patient. Strengths of a kapha type person would include long-term memory, mental endurance, patience, inclusivity. They're very grounded and stable. They're calm, they're forgiving, they're compassionate, they're generous, they're great listeners. Challenges for kapha include brain fog, a lack of clarity, and also sort of difficulty getting focused, getting into a project, difficulty getting started with something. That sort of inertia can be really challenging for kaphas. I know for me, when I'm trying to get work done, it takes me like an hour to really get in and get focused. But once I do, I can do it for a long time. Kapha type people need the least sleep. About 7 to 8 hours is generally good for a kapha type person. And their response to stress tends to be more of those heavy emotions like depression and sadness. Okay, so again, we just talked about how the doshas manifest in people, right, with the different qualities. But you can also think about, because we all have these doshas, the energy of these doshas within us, if we use the timing of the day, the kapha time of day, we can access more kapha type energies like mental endurance and patience. If we use the pitta time of day, even if you're not a very pitta type person, a very fiery person, you can use the pitta time of day to access more discernment, more focus, more organization. And that is what we're talking about today. How can we use our energies to access basically the strengths within each dosha? Okay, so let's talk a little bit about lifestyle and daily routine. Daily routine is a huge pillar to the Ayurvedic lifestyle because it invites balance into our lives through consistency. And it really gives us the opportunity to optimize how we're harnessing the energies available to us at different times throughout the day. It also helps us, as I mentioned earlier, align our internal energies with external energies in terms of thinking about when the sun is highest in the sky. We'll talk about that and how that relates to pitta. Also, in Ayurveda, we think about how how to align with like the seasons and the weather and all of that. That's all sort of part of it. So a big component of Ayurveda is balancing our internal energy with the external, with the world around us. And daily routine really offers us the opportunity to do that. And through that, we generally feel more radiant, more vital, more productive, all things that are good. And if you already have a daily routine, this is really an opportunity to refine, to go deeper, to like make little adjustments to feel even better on maybe slightly more subtle levels. If you don't already have a daily routine, hopefully this inspires that for you. And if you missed the webinar that I did recently, Ayurveda for daily routine and self-care, you can go back and find that, and that will give you more of the basic routine information. Something that I've also been thinking about recently is basically this idea, you hear people talk about getting in a flow state, which basically means that they like get really into a project and are so inspired and they keep working on it. And I have this theory that a flow state is really just when you connect a certain project with an aligned energy of the day. So if you do a Vata type project, like a really creative, collaborative project during the Vata time of day, you're probably going to feel like you're in a flow state because it feels so aligned and you're able to just move through that work. If you do a Pitta type project, a problem solving, like really critical thinking project during the Pitta time of day, you're probably going to feel that energy of a flow state, of being really able to like get into that project. And if you do a Kapha type project during the Kapha time of day, you're going to feel like you're in a flow state. So that's sort of a hack for thinking about how to do our best work in the world. So now I'm going to go through the different times of day. I mentioned them once. I'm going to go through them in depth from morning to night and talk about the energies at play throughout the day, and what you can do to be in alignment with those energies so that you can experience the strengths of each dosha during that time of day. So as I mentioned before, early morning time from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. is the Vata time of day. So this is the time when the world comes alive. From an Ayurvedic perspective, we say that it's actually easier to wake up during the Vata time of day because Vata is the energy of the wind. It's literally easier to get up and moving if we get up during the Kapha time of day. So if you wake up right around 6 or just before, or the Vata time of day, if you wake up right around 6 or just before 6, you're going to feel that energy of movement to really get yourself going. The Vata time of day, yeah, it encourages movement, quickness, and lightness. So it's also a good time to have a bowel movement because there's a downward flowing energy of Vata. It will help a more full evacuation if you can do it first thing in the morning, and that's super Ayurveda. And this is also a really good time to hydrate, to drink warm lemon honey water, which you've probably heard me talk about a million times. But the Vata time of day is dry, like the wind. So it's a good time to hydrate, to balance those sort of dry, light qualities. It's also great for our digestive system to hydrate at that time. And it's great for moving toxins out of the morning. So if I were going to give you 3 things for the best use of your time during the Vata time of day, from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m., I would say wake up just before or with the sun, right around 6 or maybe a little earlier. Hydrate, ideally with lemon honey water, and try to have bowel movement, which the lemon honey water will help with. Okay, let's move on to the next part of the day. Mid-morning is Kapha time. From 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. is the Kapha time of day. So the energy of Kapha dosha is earth and water. So that energy is heavier and slower. So this is why it's actually harder to get out of bed if you're waking up at 8 in that Kapha time of day versus if you're waking up at 6 using that Vata time of day, which has the energy of movement to get you up and out of bed. So if you notice that you're feeling lethargic and sort of heavy lately, try waking up earlier. It might actually be easier to get yourself up and out of bed if you do it before the Kapha time of day. But the Kapha time of day, again, between 6 a.m. and 10 a.m. is a really good time to gather energy and momentum for your day. So you want to fuel your body by eating a nourishing breakfast, ideally one that includes vegetables in the morning, but something that isn't too heavy. And then this is a really good time to use the Kapha energy of patience, the sort of sustained energy of Kapha, to get into deep, ongoing projects. So if you're studying for something, it's a really good time to like read a textbook and get into it, because not only is Kapha dosha associated with long-term memory, but it's also associated with patience and endurance. So you just get that out of the way at the beginning of your day, somewhere between 6 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. So usually for me, when I'm working from home, I start working from home around 8 or 8:30 and try to use that 2 hours to 90 minutes to like do a more long-term project, something that I've been working on for a while, to just like get a piece of it done and really focus in. So three things that I recommend for the best use of energy during kapha time from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. would be to exercise, because you want to get moving, gather energy and momentum from your day, counter that heavy kapha energy, nourish your body, eat a nourishing breakfast, ideally with vegetables, and engage in enduring or dense or long-term projects during the kapha time of day. You use that kapha energy to get your work done. Okay, next, midday, late morning to midday, we get into pitta time from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. So this is when the sun is highest in the sky. It also means that fire is strongest within our bodies. So pitta is strongest when the sun is highest in the sky. Again, it's that idea of connecting our internal energies to the energy, the external energy around us, to connecting with the elements and the rhythms of nature. So the sun is highest in the sky, our internal fire is strongest. So that means digestive fire, but also like mental fire, like mental capacity to focus, like sharpness is strongest during this pitta time of day, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. So not only is this when you want to eat your biggest meal, but it's also the time that you want to schedule your most mentally demanding or problem-solving work or projects or activities. You can really utilize the sharp, quick energy of pitta to get things done and engage in your most critical thinking or focus intensive projects. And as I mentioned, digestive capacity is also stronger during this time. So this is actually lunch is when you eat your biggest meal, because your body is more able to absorb and assimilate your food. There's greater digestive capacity at lunch, which means that your body is also better able to turn that food into nutrients and into energy to continue going about your day and fueling your body. Okay, so 3 things to best utilize your energy during this pitta time would include engaging in mentally stimulating activities or critical thinking, focus, problem solving, that sharp type work you want to get done during the pitta time of day. You also want to eat your largest meal, and ideally take a walk after lunch. That'll support digestion, and that'll also help lift your energy so you don't feel tired when you go back to do more critical thinking after lunch, okay? Late afternoon, we get into another vata time of day. So 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. is a vata time of day. And rather than invigorating ourselves as we did in the morning during that first vata time of day, we actually want to start countering the energy of vata to ground ourselves and to soothe the active influences that we've felt throughout the day. So with this in mind, you really want to give yourself permission to relax and regroup and start to take it a little bit easier. You've just had a pitta time of day, you've worked really hard, you've done a lot of critical thinking. So now you're going to transition into a work schedule that's a little more simple and light. Ideally more flexible or creative tasks are best done from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. during the vata time of day. This is also the best time to schedule team meetings and communications and collaborations. This is the best time to like respond to all your emails. I know that if I respond to my emails first thing in the morning, it feels like too many small tasks. Like I really want to get into a big piece of work in the morning. And if I waste that energy on doing emails, then by the time I get to the vata time of day, I'm like out of small tasks. And then it's just really hard to do a big, more enduring task. And Sierra and I actually just recently switched our meeting schedule so that we meet in the afternoons. We meet after lunch because we find that we're both more creative and more collaborative and better able to communicate and be in that sort of light Vata type energy, and it's really been working for us. I can't recommend that highly enough. If you are having team meetings as you're working from home or when you go back to work, you really want to try and do them from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. so that you can use the other energies earlier in the day to really get some other types of work done. As always, it's important to stay hydrated during the Vata time of day, so it's also a good time to be sipping warm tea into the afternoon. And after 5 p.m., you really want to start calming the mind in preparation for the evening, in preparation to wind down. So I recommend getting into like a meditative practice before dinner if you can, whether that's meditating or just taking deep breaths, taking a walk, journaling, reading a book, whatever it is for you to just reset and regroup. It's really good to do that during the Vata time because we have more of a connection to the sort of light ethereal energies that support a great spiritual practice like meditation or a great reflective practice like journaling. So let's recap. 3 practices to best use your energy during the Vata time of day from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. So the second Vata time of day would be to engage in creativity, collaboration, communication type projects and activities. Also to sip herbal tea, it's very soothing to our Vata. And to practice some sort of mindfulness, ideally before dinner, whether that's meditating, journaling, reading, whatever that looks like for you. It's a really good time to get into that like grounded, reflective energy. Okay, another kapha time in the evening from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. So unlike in the morning, when we really wanted to balance the kapha influence by energizing ourselves and getting up and getting activated, in the evening, we really want to leverage the energy of kapha to slow down and wind down. This is the time when it's natural to slow your pace and to prepare the body for sleep. So you really want to eat a lighter dinner during the kapha time, because as the sun goes down in the sky, digestive capacity goes down too. So a lighter dinner that consists mostly of vegetables and greens, ideally before the sun goes down, will really support digestion, and that will be a good use of your kapha energy. And then by 9 p.m., you want to turn off electronics, because that blue light from screens can impact our circadian rhythms. It can sort of reactivate us to make our bodies feel like we should be awake, which makes it much harder to fall asleep. And that way it also lets our brains and our nervous systems just sort of decompress for a while before we actually lay down to go to sleep. Something that I always recommend before bed to support energy, to support a vibrant daily routine, is to practice legs up the wall for about 10 minutes. So if you haven't done that practice before, you basically sit really close to a wall, you scoot your glutes all the way up to the wall, lie your back down on the ground and spiral your feet up the wall. So you're making sort of an L shape with your head and spine resting on the earth and your legs reaching up the wall. And that will really support a restful night's sleep. It will support grounding the energy of Vata, which is the energy that keeps us up like insomnia. It's the energy of anxiety and fear. So the more we can ground Vata before bed, the more restful night's sleep we can all have. That's why we do legs up the wall before bed. Eases us into a restful night's sleep, calms the mind, it grounds the body. You could also read a book during this time if legs up the wall isn't your thing. Reading a book is also a great wind down. And then in a perfect world, you really want to get in bed and have the lights out by 10 p.m. I know that can be tricky, but you're still, if you go to bed right around 10 or just before 10, you're still capitalizing on that energy of kapha, which is heavy and slow. So there's more energy to put us to sleep during the kapha time of day. If we stay at past 10, we usually feel reactivated, and I'll tell you why in just a minute. But let's do a quick recap. The best use of your energy during the second kapha time of day from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. would be to eat a lighter dinner before dark, turn off electronics by 9 p.m., and practice legs up the wall for 10 minutes or read a book if you prefer. And then late night, we get into another pitta time of day from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. This time of night is actually when the liver is doing its most active work. So you might find that if you're up past 10, you feel sort of reactivated. Some people say, I'm a night owl, I just get all my best work done after 10 p.m. And I tell them, well, actually you could get your best work done from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. That's a whole other thing. But many people experience feeling this sort of pitta type fiery energy after 10 p.m. where we get reactivated. We want to do projects. We want to get stuff done. We're thinking about a lot of stuff. However, ideally, that energy of activation would actually be going to your liver when you're asleep. There's a lot of internal work that your body needs to do with that energy. And when we stay up late and don't give ourselves that internal liver detoxification, bodily organ reset, then we're not supporting our whole being as well. Our liver isn't getting that support if we don't give ourselves the rest during the time when the liver wants to do its work. It's very important. So ideally, you go to bed by 10 p.m. and then you wake up feeling more rejuvenated. The earlier we go to bed, the earlier it's easier to wake up. During that vata time, it's a whole loop. Let's recap on the energy of pitta, the best uses of your energy during the pitta time. So be asleep. The first best use of your energy from 10 a.m. or 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. is to be asleep. Let your liver detoxify, restore, reset, and rejuvenate. There's a lot of work that your body needs to do when you're sleeping. It cannot happen if you are not sleeping. Okay. So let's talk about tips for integrating some of the things that have come up in our webinar today. And this will be especially helpful if you're working from home. So tonight, before you go to bed, I want you to make a list of the projects, tasks, activities that you need or want to work on tomorrow. Okay? Write them all down while you're thinking of it before bed. And then look at the list and ask yourself, which task or tasks will require the most patience and endurance? And make a note of that. Those are kapha type tasks. And those are tasks that you're going to want to do from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Okay, which tasks will require the most patience or endurance? Make a note of that. And then ask yourself, which tasks that I'm trying to do tomorrow are going to require the most critical thinking or problem solving? Those are pitta type tasks that you want to do during the pitta time from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And then look at your list and ask yourself, which tasks are going to require the most creativity and communication? So like I said, that's your emails, that's your team meetings, whatever creative projects you want to accomplish. Make a note of that, because those are the things you're going to do during the vata time of day from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. Okay? And then ideally, you're going to look at that whole list and number your tasks in order, or set specific time frames, kapha time, pitta time, vata time in the middle of the day, and write in which tasks you're going to do in what order. So again, patience and endurance tasks you do during the kapha time of day, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Critical thinking and problem solving tasks during the pitta time of day, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And creativity or communication-based tasks during the vata time of day, 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. Okay? Put them in order, write it out tonight, and then tomorrow when you get up to get into whatever workflow you're in, you'll just be able to go for it. You'll you'll be ready. You'll know exactly where you're starting. It'll really save you some time tomorrow. Now, I just want to touch briefly on diet or nourishment for energizing the body. So foods that are energizing and detoxifying, that generally bring us lighter energy, a little more clarity to get our work done, would be primarily vegetables, okay? But also you really want to eat fewer heavy, sticky, slow foods, because those are more likely to cause brain fog, lethargy, to make us tired when we're trying to do our tasks. And cooked food is going to be a lot easier to digest than raw food, which means your body will be better able to turn that food into energy, into bodily tissue to keep you moving throughout your day. Okay, so a diet for a more energizing way of being would be eating more vegetables. This is a recap. Eating more vegetables, at least 50% of the food that you eat in 2, ideally 3 meals of your day should be vegetables. At least 50% of the food on your plate, vegetables. You will feel so much more energized. Cook them. And then eat fewer heavy sticky foods like gluten, dairy, sugar, processed foods. They're going to create more, as I mentioned, like brain fog, lethargy, slowness, heaviness, which will make it harder to go about our tasks. Now, I'm not saying cut out gluten, dairy, sugar. I'm not saying any of that. But I'm saying eat more vegetables and eat less gluten and dairy. That's all. It's very, very simple. And I just wanted to touch on a few herbs and remedies for energy and focus, supporting both the mind and body, because that's sort of fun to think about. The thing about herbal medicine, about incorporating herbs into your life, is that they're going to be a lot more effective if you're supporting yourself first and foremost through daily routine, diet, and lifestyle. Once you get all those things dialed in, then your body will be more receptive to the subtleness of herbs to support you on the next level. So I'm giving you these things last because I want you to do all the other things first. And then when you do, the herbs will be very helpful. If you ignored everything I said before this and just took the herbs, it would be helpful, but it's not going to be as helpful. It's not going to be as effective as if you're also dialing in your diet and daily routine. Okay. So for mental energy and focus and clarity for getting things done, especially for working from home or just for working in general, would be herbs like tulsi, which is holy basil, bacopa, which is also called brahmi, and gotu-kola. All 3 of those herbs, tulsi, bacopa, and gotu-kola, are good for all 3 doshas, more or less. And then for more physical energy and vitality, for a kapha type person, I would recommend the herb called moringa. It's very nutrient dense, and it's basically a superfood, good for kapha. For vata type people, I would recommend ashwagandha. As long as you're not experiencing like a thick coating on your tongue, toxins in your body. If you're wondering what that means, we'll have a webinar coming up about detoxifying the body, and you can learn all about that with Sierra. And if you are a pitta type person and you want to experience more physical energy and vitality, I recommend taking the herb shatavari. But again, you don't want to take shatavari if you have toxic buildup in your body, if you have ama, we call it. So if you do have a coating on your tongue, go ahead, whether or not you're vata or pitta or kapha, just take moringa, okay? If you don't have a coating, vatas can take ashwagandha, pittas can take shatavari, okay? Another herbal option to support overall wellness, energy, vitality, immunity, sort of everything, is an herbal jam called Chyawanprash. I can send a link to you if you're if you're viewing this live, I'll send you a follow-up email with the link to Chyawanprash. But it's great for energy and immunity. And basically it's all these medicinal herbs cooked into a jam with ghee and honey. And that's great for supporting overall wellness, also stress, anxiety. It's very grounding. That's a really nice herbal option. And lastly, I just want to give you a quick little remedy recipe for mental clarity and focus. So you heard me mention the herb moringa, especially for kapha types, but also for vata and pitta if they have toxic buildup. So any of us can take moringa. It's pretty safe, it's nutrient dense. So something that I really like to do that I'm going to share with you now is I make like a moringa latte from home for mental clarity and focus. So what I do is I take a ball jar, just like a small jar, and set that aside. I heat up a cup of oat milk on the stove. I boil some water in the pot in just my kettle. And I add a tablespoon of moringa powder, like a 1/4 teaspoon of cardamom, 2 pinches of cinnamon, a pinch of black pepper to the jar. Then I pour a little hot water, start to mix it up. When the oat milk is hot, I don't bring it to a boil, just a little bit hot. When it's hot, pour it into the jar, add a teaspoon of crystallized honey, put the lid on, shake it up, and drink it. And that will support mental clarity and focus throughout the day. So again, those ingredients were a cup of oat milk, like a 1/4 cup hot water, a tablespoon of moringa powder, which is super nutrient dense. It's a superfood, a 1/4 teaspoon cardamom, 2 pinches of cinnamon, 1 pinch black pepper, and 1 teaspoon crystallized honey. All in the jar, shake it up, moringa latte. Okay, so we have basically covered everything that we're going to cover in the webinar. I want to talk to you a little bit about what's next, ways that you can move forward with Ayurveda. Sierra and I at Cultivate Balance offer Ayurvedic consultations, wellness webinars, virtual experiences like this one. We also do in-person workshops when that's appropriate, goodness guides, like downloads for support, wellness support, and online wellness courses. That being said, you should know that we do have an online wellness course, super comprehensive. It's called The Art of Ayurveda. And it really goes into depth on the concepts that we've talked about today, but it also goes into depth on digestion and detoxification and herbal remedies and spiritual practices. It gives the whole foundational introduction to Ayurveda. It really goes into depth on the doshas, how disease manifests and what to do about it. That is all available to you in the Art of Ayurveda, which is our online course. You can find it on the website or email me if you have any questions about that. You can also find really fun quizzes on our website, the Mind Body quiz, which is called How Do I Explain Myself? We have a digestive quiz, which is called What's Up with My Digestion? And we also have a fertility quiz that gives you insights if you maybe notice that you're having fertility challenges conceiving. So you can find those things, you can find blogs, recipes, all of that on our website, cultivatebalance.com. And I just want to remind you, a big part of our philosophy in Cultivate Balance is this idea that the more we take care of ourselves, the better we're able to take care of our families, our communities, and the planet. And basically the better we're able to show up in the world. And it's so important for Sierra and I both to remind all of you and to remind ourselves the value in self-care is really a value that enables us to be better in the world. It's not just about like buying fancy skincare or investing a bunch of money in supplements. Self-care is really about being intentional with yourself, with your diet, with your routine, really nurturing yourself so that you can show up better in the world. That's what it is. So thank you so much.